welcome to our channel. So today I plan to do a video on bank recon. This is the one we'll be looking at. So I'm also gonna do a video for the grade 11s, which will be much more detailed. So if you are like maybe you have forgotten the basics, I tried to summarize the basics here for you, but if you feel like you need to redo this thing properly, you can also look at the grade 11 video and then move on to the grade 12 video to make sure that you've got your basics right, because in grade 11 it's much more detailed, I believe. But anyway, we're gonna look at this thing, and then we're gonna look at a question and then try to work from that question. But before we look at the question, I thought, okay, let me quickly just show you the basics of the ideas behind a bank recon to jog your memory a bit, right? So I wrote some notes down here before I shot the video for you guys. I decided, I'll just do something nice. So I wrote some notes here. So I looked at what's the purpose of a bank recon, yeah? So what's the purpose of a bank recon? It's for internal control purpose, to ensure that one process is in check of another, right? Because if you think about it, a bank account in your books and the bank account in the bank statement, the values should be the same at every single time, right? So if the processes are in check of each other, in other words, like if what I'm doing is what the bank is also doing on the other side, when I pay, the bank also shows that I paid something, and then I also show in my books that I paid something, and all the numbers are matching, then we should have the same amount at the end of the month. But it usually doesn't happen, okay? Usually doesn't happen like that, and that's why we have a bank recon, basically, right? We have the bank recon specifically to try and fix issues whenever we find that the two balances are not matching, because they're supposed to match. So we want to ensure that one process is in check of another. Because the bank balance per the bank statement must equal the bank balance per the bank account in the ledger book, right? This thing must be done monthly, so that's not really part of the purpose, but I just put that in there as a general info. It's done monthly. Now the process, I sort of shortened the process, right? Because in grade 12 you don't really look at every single thing. Like in the question paper, they won't make you do it like from scratch like you used to do it in grade 11. In grade 12, they try to condense it and make it shortish a bit, but all the principles sort of still apply, right? The same principles will still apply. So here, I gave us some of the things we do when we process this thing. So you'll see that usually, because it's done every month, usually in your question paper, you will start off with a bank recon from the previous month. So you must take the bank recon from the previous month, compare it to the current month's bank statement. Okay? Because the big purpose for doing a bank recon, which I should have probably noted up there, is that when you find errors that were made by the bank, yeah, if you find errors that were made by the bank, or if the bank missed some stuff in their bank statement, you need to record everything in the bank record. Yeah. Now, once you've recorded everything in the bank record, you expect that when the next month's statement comes, everything will be fixed. So you compare your bank record from last month with your bank statement for this month to make sure that everything has been fixed. So that's why I always believe you should do this step first. And usually in grade 12, they will want you to do this step to make sure that the bank record for last month matches the things that showed on the bank statement for this month, of the particular month you're dealing with. Then you can compare the cash journals. These are your cash receipts journal and your cash payments journal. You compare that to your bank statement. Once you compare that with your bank statement, anything that you find that is appearing on the bank statement is from the bank, remember? Everything that appears on the bank statement, but it is not appearing in your cash receipts journal or your cash payment journal, you must then account for those things in your cash payment journals or your cash receipts journals, right? Or you can account straight for it in the bank account if you are adjusting in the bank account. And if something appears on your journals, but it's missing on your bank statement or it's not there, then that's what goes into the reconciliation statement, because you want the bank to reconcile those errors, to fix those errors. So you expect that next month when it comes, the statement will include the things you included in the record. That's usually the expectation, right? And then sometimes the bank can make some errors. So they can write a certain number the wrong way. You can say maybe they can say maybe instead of saying 5,000, they say 500, right? Which means they made an error. They understated something. So if that error is in the bank statement that you received from the bank, then you must fix that and show it in your bank record, right? And then if an error appears in your journals or your bank account, right, then you must fix it in your journals or bank account. That's pretty much how it works. Okay, so that's the basic process, and that's how you do your bank recon usually, right? So I'm gonna look at this question from the November 2019 paper, so last year's final exam for the metric students. So we're going to look at that particular question. It was a bank recon, and then we're going to see how can we apply this in that, right? I had already looked at the question beforehand because it takes long to do a bank recon, and I don't want the video to be super long. So I advise that as we go through this, have the question paper open. And if there's something you don't understand, please leave on the comment box. I will expand further, or I will do another long video. You would just have to watch that, guys. But I prefer not to have too long of a video, because then that could be discouraging. Okay, so we're gonna look at this question. Where did I put the question again? So the question we're looking at is last year's final. There it is, right? This is last year's final. Now there were a number of things that you had to look at. So here we're dealing with a company called Clonex Traders, or it's not even a company. I think it's probably a sole proprietorship. And then we have the owner, who's Ben Joseph, who realizes that many people are now using EFTs instead of checks. State 3 advantages of EFTs. Like, you know the advantages of EFTs compared to checks. You just need to use your head, yeah? Think of stuff like you reduce the chances of theft, because the money goes in straight into someone's account. Nobody has to walk around with big piles of cash to go deposit in the bank. You reduce the chances of fraud as well, because now, like, everything can quickly clear, and it's quick and easy to use as well. So those are, you can state those as the 3 advantages. You can think of any other advantages as long as they make sense. Okay, and then generally the bookkeeper has been assigned the duty of processing and controlling EFTs, right? And then they say, okay, explain 2 reasons why the internal auditor is concerned about this issue. Okay, now think, right? Internal auditor was someone who will be looking at internal controls. So if you think about that particular issue with Janet, is that she processes and then she also controls all EFTs. Do you see the problem there? The problem is that you don't have enough segregation of duties. You can't have one person do all of those things alone. Why? Because you increase the chances of stuff like fraud and all of that stuff. You don't want that to be happening. Okay, so we don't want that to be happening, so we prefer that, okay, we should have more than one person doing this sort of jobs. One person maybe can be processing, the other person can be handling the EFTs. So we're trying to avoid fraud, we're trying to avoid theft, which can fall under fraud. We're trying to ensure that we have a strong internal control system and avoid many errors, okay? So you can think of all sorts of things to write there, guys. Just make sure that you write something, and then the marker will give you the marks, as long as you write something that makes sense. Okay, great. So now we get into the crux of this question, right? These 3 required. The first required says 2.2 says show changes in the cash journals for 2019. What in our process, right? Where do we have to fix stuff that have to do with the journals, right? Remember, in our process, we start by comparing prior month bank record with current month bank statement, right? So let's start with that process, because in this case, if you look at extract A, so in the information, they gave you last month, 31 May 2019, because now we're looking at June, 30 June 2019. So this is last month, right? So they give you last month's bank record. There it is. Um, so now we have to compare what's here with what actually appears on the bank statement. So this note will tell us which of these things appeared on the bank statement, right? Because remember, we do a bank recon because we want everything that's on the recon to be fixed in the statement when we see the next month statement. So now we expect these things to have been fixed. If they are not, we have to think about what should be done with these things. Okay? Some of them might have to stay on the recon for this month as well. Okay? So let's look at this. We have an outstanding deposit of 9,500. What do they say about it? The outstanding deposit appeared on the June bank statement. That's good. That's what we want, right? We wanted it to appear on the statement. Now it has appeared on the June one. So you crush it off. You'll see I had crushed it off already, right? Because now it appears. We won't see it in the next recon, and we will not account for it anywhere because now it appears properly. Everything is good. Check 321. Right, you see this check was issued 10 December 2018, right? This is a stale check. So they say it was issued for the owner's club fees. It was never deposited. Because now we're in June 2019, but this thing was issued 10 December 2018. It's been more than 6 months. So if it's been more than 6 months, that means that a check is now stale. It will no longer cash in, okay? It will no longer work anyway. So a stale check, guys, right? Remember, when you issue a check, what do? You go to your cash payments journal, you account for the issued check, right? But now that the check is stale, where do you fix the error? You fix the error in your cash receipts journal, right? So we expect that you will go to your cash receipts journal and account for the stale check. We don't expect the bank to show this anymore because it's stale. So that means that you must cancel the check, in other words, right? And when you cancel a check, because it was a payment, you would cancel it in your cash receipts journal, right? So these are your cash journals, right? You've got your cash receipts, got your cash payments. They give you the totals, the provisional totals, and that is the 1,500 of the stale check. Do you see that? Because it's gone now. We will never see it actually come into a payment. So it's stale. You recorded it first at the payment journal, but now that it's stale, you go and cancel it in the cash receipts journal. Now the next check 427 was lost, and the new check will be issued only in July, right? So there's a check that got lost. It's 427. Now you have to cancel it. That's the first thing you must do. When you cancel a check, guys, you can make this the golden rule. You always go to the cash receipts journal to cancel it in your books, right? So that's why you see the 1,400 there. Okay, it will be issued in July. That means that it will go to the cash payment journal only in July. If it was issued again in June, then we would expect them to have accounted for it in the cash payments journal again, right? Simple as that. Check 444 did not appear on the June bank statement. So check 444 27 May 2019. Okay, that's fine. It happens. It's possible that it still did not appear, so it will remain outstanding because it's not stale or it's not lost. So you leave it. It will remain outstanding. And then you've got check 516, right? Check 516 has now appeared in the bank statement, which is good. We wanted that. So now it has appeared in the bank statement with the correct amount, but the correct amount is 5,250. It's not 7,950 as we had recorded. So we had recorded 7,950 instead of 5,250, right? So where are you gonna fix the error, right? So you have an error there going, right? This error means that in your books you said you paid more. So in other words, you reduced your bank balance more when you're supposed to reduce it only by 5,250. So you must get the difference between the correct amount and the incorrect amount. And then what do? You have to cancel it on or fix it on the cash receipts journal, because you had said you paid more when actually you paid less. Or you get my point. So if you paid less yet you had put that you paid more, you need to cancel the extra money in the cash receipts journal as if you have received that money back. You get my point? So that's why when you go to your cash receipts journal, you will see the difference between those two amounts is 2,500. So it's the difference between 7,950 and 5,250. The difference between that 7,950 minus 250 gives you 2,500. That's what we expect to see you putting in your cash receipts journal. Okay, to cancel that extra 2,500. Okay, so you are showing changes in the cash journals, right? You and we had said in our notes, right, that in our notes that we did that everything that we fix in the cash receipts journal are items that are appearing on the bank statement but not on the journals. Do you get my point? So if something appears on the bank statement but not the journals, it must be accounted for in the journals. So let's go look for those things now. Right? So we have dealt with the first step, which is to compare your recon for last month with your current bank statement. We have done that work, right? Now we're doing the work of comparing the cash journals with the bank statement, right? And when we compare the cash journals with the bank statement, we need to look out for things that are appearing in the bank statement but are not appearing in the journals, and then we need to account for them in the journals, right? So let's go see. Did they give us information about such things, right? They would have. Where's yeah, there, right? If you look at C, information, not C, D, entries in the bank statement on the June bank statement, but not. And they even like make it so big, like for you to see that this does not appear in the cash journals. These are the things that should be appearing in the cash journals, right? So you've got all these things. You've got a debit order, and then it appears twice, right? And then they give you information here to say that insurance appeared twice in error. This will be rectified next month. So who's making the error here? Right? The error is being made by the bank, because this is according to the bank statement. This is what is appearing in the bank statement. So if an error is being made by the bank, where do we fix it? In the bank statement. I mean, in the bank record. Right? You fix that in the bank record. So this, it appearing twice, we will fix that in the bank record. But all we want is the things that are not appearing. So you've got a debit order, it should be appearing 1,125. It should be appearing in the cash journals, but it's not, right? So when I go to the cash journals, which cash journal am I going to put this? The CPJ, because it's a payment. A debit order is a payment. It's when the bank debits your accounts to give the money to someone else. So in this case, they would be giving it to the insurance company, guys. So that will go to CPJ. That error will be bank record. I'm just going to put it there. It will go to the bank record. Right, the unpaid check. Now this is when someone gives you a check or gives the business a check and says, no, I'm paying you guys your money, or whatever the case may be. But then when we go to the bank with the check, we find that, oh, the person doesn't have money. So the check bounces. Okay? And then the bank returns the check. So in other words, we would have put in the cash receipts journal that we received money, but we really didn't, because it ended up bouncing. So we have to cancel the receipt. And how do you cancel a receipt? You put it in the CPJ. So that will go to the CPJ. And then on the 25th, we received an EFT from a tenant. A tenant is someone who's renting from you. I'm Malan, right? He's renting from you, and then he paid you rent, right? So that means that you received the money. That will go to the cash receipts journal. Then you have interest income. That speaks for itself, that it's income coming into your business. So if you have a positive bank balance, what the bank does is it gives you some interest because you keep your balance positive, which is good. So that will go obviously to the CRJ. Service fees is your bank charges, right? The bank is charging you for using certain services, like withdrawing money or whatever, right? At the end of the month. So that is a payment that will go to your cash payments journal. I hope that makes sense, right? So we expect to see all these amounts there, right, in our answer sheet, right? So we see in the cash receipts journal we have that 2,800 from the tenant M Malan. We've got 130 for that interest income, and then those other things. And then here we've got that debit order. We've got the 1,200 for the check that bounced. We've got the 175 for the bank charges. Okay, and then you've got your totals for the cash channels. You get my point, right? And then the next question said, okay, then calculate the correct bank balance, bank account balance, which is quite simple, right? To calculate the correct bank balance. So if you look at your last month's recon, you have a favorable bank account balance at the end of last month. So this is that at the end of last month, which means this will be your balance at the beginning of this month, right? So at the beginning of this month, in your bank account, your ledger account, you have 9,200. Then you have to add the totals from your cash journals, the 35,800, which is receipts, you add it. And then you subtract all your payments, which is 34,900. Then what you get here is your bank balance at the end of this month. So that's an entire 4 marks. That's very simple. So even if you got these two wrong, if you still plugged them in the correct way, you are still going to get the marks anyway, because it shows you understand the process to getting to the correct bank account balance. Okay? So that's pretty much the case. So you would have done this 11 marks and you would have gotten also this 4 marks. Then you'll be left with the task of getting to your bank recon. Yeah. Now your bank recon, guys. For your bank recon, whereas I did the bank recon already quickly. But now I'm not sure where I actually put it. Okay. So for your bank recon, you're going to look at, so here, remember our little process before we look at that? In our little process here, we said that if there's something that appears on the cash journals but not on the bank statement, it must be accounted for in the reconciliation statement. So this thing must have appeared on the cash journals but not on the statement. Then it will be appearing in the bank record. And all errors that are made in the bank statement must be corrected in the reconciliation. So you saw we noticed an error, right? We have already noticed an error when we were going through it. Now we need to look for items that are appearing on the journals but not on the bank statement, right? And also when we were comparing prior month's bank record, do you remember we noticed check 444 did not appear in the bank statement for this month, and we said this one is still outstanding because it's not stale or it did not bounce, nothing happened, it's just still not appearing, which means we will keep it in this month's bank record as an outstanding check. You see that? So it works that simple. And then we're going to go and look through the question to see are the things that appear on the journals but not on the statement, because that's what we have missing. So if you look at C here, right? You've got a deposit of 9,675. So someone went, deposited the cash in your account, but this thing only appears in your journals. It's not yet appearing in your bank statement. So that's an outstanding deposit. And then someone made an EFT at the end of the month, which makes sense why it does not appear in the statement. Why? Because the statement usually comes on the, so this one comes until the 30th of June, but they wouldn't have accounted for it yet. They're probably going to account for it when in the next bank statement. So it does not appear yet. So it's an outstanding EFT. And then you still have another check that's dated 12 August 2019. This check we call a post-dated check. So it's a check that's got a date that's in the future, right? So that check will actually cash in only around this date, right? So you expect that check to be outstanding until around August. You get my point? So an outstanding EFT and an outstanding check are sort of the same things, right? All of them are payments that you expect to see in your bank statement when it comes for the next month or the month after. Yeah? So here's my bank record, right? you start off with a balance as per bank statement, which they had not given it to you here, right? They had not given you this value. How do I know? Here, bank statement balance on 30 June 2019, they didn't give it to you. They wanted you to figure it out as a balancing figure. And I'll show you how you do that, right? That's fine. So we are assuming they didn't give you this. I had already calculated it, right? So you will have your outstanding deposit. So sometimes you will do this bank recon with one column, sometimes you'll do it with two columns. In this case, it's two columns, which means this is the debit side, this is the credit side. Now, everything that on your bank account was going to be on the debit side, on the recon should be on the credit side. So a deposit, right, for example, is money coming into your account. Now, according to the bank, when money comes into your account, it goes onto the credit side. According to you on your ledger account, when money comes into your bank account, it goes onto the debit side. It makes sense because from your side, you know that's money that belongs to you, right? So bank account is money that belongs to you and you consider it an asset. That's why it increases on the debit side. But from the bank side, you are a creditor. They owe you the money that you keep in the bank, right? So every time you increase the amount of money in a bank, the more money they owe you. That's why they credit it. Whenever you take money out, the less money they owe you, that's why they debit it because it's a liability. Remember, liability increases on the credit side, decreases on the debit side. So according to the bank, every time you put money into your account, you are increasing how much they owe you because they owe you that money. Every time you take out money to pay something, you decrease how much they owe you because you take out that money to pay something else. Yeah. So look at this. So when it's two columns, everything that increases your bank account should go on the credit side. Everything that decreases your bank account should be on the debit side. Yeah. So we're going to look at this one, right? Outstanding deposit will be on the credit side, 9,675. It's that outstanding deposit. And then you've got an outstanding EFT. So you would have put outstanding EFT, 3,800 there. I just put all of them as outstanding payments, and I said EFT 3,800 debit side, right? And then you're gonna have an outstanding check 444. You remember that outstanding check 444 from last month's bank recon? That's still outstanding, 4,670, right? And then you've got the new outstanding check, right? That is not appearing in the bank statement but in the journal. That is for 4,580. And then you've got that error made by the bank because the bank has now shown this debit order twice instead of just once, right? So that 1,125, according to the bank, you would have been making a payment because the debit order is you making a payment. So they would have debited your account. But now to fix the error, they should do what? Credit your account to increase your money, okay? Error made by the bank on the credit side, right? And then you will put your balance as per bank account. You remember that balance that you calculated, the 10,000 was just yeah, this balance here. Even if you had gotten it wrong, if you come and plug it in here, 10,100, then it's correct. They will mark you right for that because it shows that you understand. But the key thing is that this amount is favorable according to your bank account. And if an amount is favorable according to your bank account, which side do you usually put it? On the debit side. So because it's favorable according to your bank account, you would have put it on the debit side as 10,100. You see that? Now you would have this and these two amounts on the side because you wouldn't know that amount. Then you can get the total, and the total was going to give you 22,370, which means on this side as well, it's supposed to be 22,370 because it's supposed to balance, right? After that, you were going to take this 22,370, you subtract these two amounts because you had them, then it was going to give you 11,570. That 11,000 is your balancing figure. And you're going to get it anyway as long as you showed the calculation correctly. Okay? Guys, I know that is a very quick way of doing a bank recon. It usually takes quite long to do a proper bank recon. I will do another video for the grade 11th, and then I will do another one for the grade 12s, which could be a bit longer, but that sort of gives you a high level understanding of what's happening. Do leave a comment if you want me to do something further or to explain something further. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining in, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.